So again, welcome everybody. It's so exciting to have you join us for the reading of Ruby's Birds, one of my favorite books that I read with my son all the time. We're very lucky to have author Mya Thompson, who's a bird expert and teaches all about birds up in Ithaca, New York. And she's going to read this beautiful book that she wrote to us and tell us about it. So we're going to have everyone on mute during the reading, but if you have questions, please put them in the chat. We're going to unmute everybody and bring you back onto video at the end once Maya is finished reading. And so you'll have chances to ask questions live, or if you can't wait, you can just write it into the chat. For those of you who are new to H2O, we are an environmental education organization, and we provide a lot of field trips out in city parks in the 5 boroughs of New York City to teach about nature. And we do them also at parks that have old reservoirs, so we could teach about the water system, and also at beaches, so we can also learn about marine ecology as well. And on our field trips, we see a lot of birds, especially this time of year. We're right in the middle of the spring migration, which is when the birds who spend their winter in the southern regions, like close to the equator where it's always warm, fly up north to where we are in New York and further north into Maine and Canada to breed, to have their babies. So we're right now in the middle of this migration season. So it's really a perfect time to be presenting Ruby's Birds. For teachers, just a quick note, we've, in addition to our in-person field trips, which will resume hopefully this summer, certainly by September, and they're free field trips, and we invite you to sign up on our website. We also developed a hub, an online portal, and we invite you to check that out. My colleague Lana will drop that link in the chat now for you, so you have it handy. And we also are doing virtual field trips via Zoom with our educators. So if you want to sign up for those now, you're welcome to do that. Or meaning, after this program, but sooner rather than later. Okay. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our author, Mya Thompson, PhD. That means she is an expert in birds and biology, and she describes herself as a bird nerd. She is the founder of the Bird Academy and co-director of engagement in science and nature at the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. Cornell is a very good university in upstate New York. And she helps people learn more about birds and their amazing lives. Mya is also fascinated by larger animals, including elephant families, which she studied in Central Africa. She is the author of Ruby's Birds and producer of the games Flap to the Future and Beastbox. Mya lives upstate, as I mentioned, in Ithaca with her family. That's in upstate New York. Again, if you haven't turned off your voice in your video, please do so now so that it makes the transmission as smooth as possible for everyone. And I'm very excited and honored to present Mya Thompson. Mya, welcome.
Thank you so much, Matt. And it's great to see you all. I see a few of you, and it's wonderful to have you all here. Thanks so much for inviting me. I'm excited to read Ruby's Birds, particularly for you all, because Ruby's Birds is set right in Central Park in New York City. So you all, I'm about 4 hours away from you, but you all are closer to where Ruby is than I am. And so this is the time of year, as Matt said, that there are so many birds out and about. And so after you have a chance to read this with me today, keep your eyes out, and I bet you'll see a lot more birds once you tune in. So let's get started. Here's Ruby's Birds. And what I want you to do as we read is keep your eyes open for the birds that are hidden in the pages of the book. Because I'm gonna read the story, but there are also lots and lots of birds sprinkled through the book that we'll look for together. So here we go. School's out. Mom and Dad are at work. My brother Malik is at soccer practice. Grandma is at her spot near the window. Alex keeps her company. Things are too quiet around here. I know what to do. So there is a bird in this page, and this right here is Alex. And that's a sulfur-crested cockatoo that is Ruby's pet. I play the piano. The piece my parents say is very grown up. I practice my dance routine, the one Malik calls stomping. I talk with Alex in the secret language Grandma taught us. Waginan, waginan. I sing at the top of my lungs, the song I made up myself. My neighbor Eva from downstairs hears everything. She calls up from her window, Ruby, want to go to the park? Yes, 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 I sing. So take a minute and look for the bird in this page. See if you can spot it. And I'm gonna put my arrow on it. This is called a house finch. And that bird you'll be able to see in your neighborhoods. We pass my favorite bakery. We pass Cece's apartment. We walk right past my regular park, the one with the twisty slide and the sprinklers. I guess Eva's going to a different park. I skipped to keep up. There are lots of birds in this page. See if you can spot any. I see a robin up here. I see a mourning dove down here. And look, there's a pigeon. I follow her all the way to Central Park, where my parents sometimes take us on Sundays when we're all dressed up. Okay, keep your eyes open. What birds do you see? Here's a cowbird right here, perched on the top of the gate. And here, this is a cool bird. Have you guys heard of the peregrine falcon? There it is. Eva's going to the woods. I've never been that way. We sing made-up songs about joggers and strollers and fancy dogs. All right, time to look for birds. We have a crow here. See that black bird? We have a mallard duck in the water. And we have a heron over near the pond. Suddenly, Eva stops. She looks up. She's listening. Bee, buzz, buzz, buzz. Bee, buzz, buzz, buzz. I quiet down and I listen too. What's wrong, I wonder? I hear a police car, a plane, some barking. Right, time to pause and look for birds. What I see over here is that there's a sound that Eva's listening to, the bee buzz, buzz, buzz. And I see some birds over here. Those are called cedar waxwings. I tug on Eva's sleeve, but she's not paying attention. She holds up her binoculars to her eyes. She's frozen like a statue. And then she smiles a huge smile. Do you all see the bird? This bird is right here. We'll find out what it is in a moment. I guess everything's okay, so I start singing again. Ruby, Eva sighs, you scared him away. Who did I scare away? I ask. Eva flops down on a bench. I sit too. It's a bird I've only ever seen back home in Costa Rica, she says. He's just stopping through on his way north because this is the best patch of woods for miles around. He's quite a singer, just like you. So there's a bird hiding here and a nest. And this one up here, this orange belly bird is called the Baltimore Oriole. If you stay quiet, we may be able to find him again. He's a golden-winged warbler. I nod. I don't say a word or sing a word either. It sounds like something from a fairy tale. We move carefully. We're serious. We pay attention. We watch for tiny movements in the leaves. We try and try. No luck today, says Eva, but now you know what to do. I sing myself to sleep as usual. There are lots of birds in this picture, right? That Ruby's dreaming up. On Sunday morning, I beg for a walk to Central Park. Malik's not interested, but it's family time, so he has to come anyway. We pass the bodega, we pass the theater. I sing my song. My family listens along. Do you see the bird in this picture? Right up here in the tree is a European starling. That's another one all of you could probably see in your neighborhood. At the park, I lead them straight to the woods. I'm silent. I'm serious. I'm paying attention. I hear a rustle in the leaves. Shh, I say. Just like Eva, I'm frozen like a statue. A tiny bird pops out of the leaves. It looks one way, then the other, then right at me. I can't help it. I get that huge smile just like Eva's. Look, I yell. Ah, yes, says Grandma. I saw a warbler, I sing as he flies away. There's no words on this page, but can you see what's happening? Ruby wanted to tell Eva about her sighting of the golden-winged warbler. So it looks like she brought Grandma down to Eva's house to show her, and they're looking in a book to look at pictures of that bird. And actually there's one more bird hiding on this page. Do you see it? It's right here, the house sparrow. So that's the book, but I wanted to share with you a little bit more about the book. So you see this about this story. Did you know, you all live near or around New York City? And did you know that in Central Park, there are 280 different kinds or species of birds that you can see there? That's a huge amount of birds. And Central Park is a great place for birds, and they love to stop there on their migration routes, just like Matt was saying. And so even, you might not expect that many birds to be in Central Park, but there are so many. And that's what makes it so exciting to live around New York City, because even though it's a huge city, there are lots of wild birds around. So I want to make sure you all have time for questions.
Beautiful. Thank you, Maya. I love the book, and it was very special to hear you read it because it is your creation. So thank you. So as Maya said, we are going to take questions now. So you should, if you do have a question, please unmute yourself, and you're welcome to show yourself on video. While you're doing that, I have a question, so I'll start. But again, if you have a question, you can either ask it in the chat, or you can also unmute yourself and show yourself on videos so we can see you as well if you want to, or you can type it in the chat. Okay, so I have a question. Maya, what was your inspiration for writing this book?
So I love birds, so birds are an inspiration. I also love children's books. That was another inspiration. But another thing is that I watched a documentary called The Central Park Effect, which is about real birders and real birds in Central Park. And I got so excited by the idea that there could be more than 200 different kinds of birds in Central Park, that I thought it would be fun to write a book. And I do visit New York City a lot. I have family there. My nephew lives there. And so when I go to Central Park, I love to look out for birds.
Awesome.
Hello? Hello? Can anybody hear me?
Yes, you can hear you. What's your question? What's your name?
Oh, my name's Xavier. I just got here.
Okay, go ahead, Xavier. Do you have a question?
Actually, I don't have a question. You can go ahead.
Okay. If you don't have a question, then go ahead and put yourself on mute, because that just makes it easier for everyone to hear.
Hey, Matt.
Yes.
Excuse me, how many birds do you think there would be on Staten Island?
There probably are about just as many birds on Staten Island than there are in Central Park. So more than 250 different kinds. But they're not there all year. Some birds just come through for a few weeks in the spring and a few weeks in the fall as they migrate.
Yeah, I've seen a blue heron.
Lucky you.
Yeah, it was in our turtle pond. I've seen a blue heron in Maryland.
Very nice. Okay, so we just want to have one person at a time. So Lana, did you want to say something?
One child asks, how many birds are there in the world?
That's a great question. So there are millions and millions and maybe billions of birds in the world, but in terms of different kinds of birds, different species, there are about 10,000 different kinds.
Amazing.
I have a question.
I saw a cardinal.
You did?
I have a question. I have a question.
Look, go ahead. Lana, do you want to take the spotlight off? Okay, I'll do that.
Broccoli is very much a flower.
Yeah, I'm just looking in the chat at the moment.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
So what is...
I spotted older birds too.
What is the most feared bird in the bird species? Like, what is the most feared bird?
Do you say feared, like scary?
Yeah, I'm talking about turtle.
Okay, what I think I heard was the most feared bird in the world, and that might depend on who you are and where you live. But I would say in New York City, the most fierce and exciting bird is the peregrine falcon, and that bird is right here. And the reason why it's so fierce is that it's actually the fastest bird in the world. It can dive at speeds close to 200 miles per hour. And the reason why it dives is that's how it hunts its prey. It hunts lots of pigeons and other birds by swooping down on them and grabbing them with its feet. And they actually have very sharp beaks with special little prongs on them, special little spikes that help them snap the spines of their prey. So that's pretty fierce and scary.
I saw a peregrine falcon in a park once.
Oh, you're so lucky.
I see 14 birds.
Okay.
One
right.
actually flew over my alleyway, and I saw two flying around the sun.
Whoa.
An American robin's nest on my window.
You have a robin's nest on your window? That's great.
An American robin.
Okay. Tayson, you have a question.
Yeah. My question is, I know that some birds run, but what is the fastest running bird?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't
Roadrunner?
I
I was asking that because I think it's a kiwi.
Kiwi. Oh, a kiwi is a really cute bird. Almost looks very fluffy. I don't know how fast kiwi run. I do know that road runners are pretty fast.
Very fast.
30 miles per hour.
And what about, you might want to look this up. What about ostriches? I bet they can run really fast. That is I'm not sure. I don't know the answer, but I'm.
Yeah, they could run really fast.
I've
seen ostriches. I've seen ostriches
run really fast.
Jump 5 feet clear of a log.
Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Zoe.
Do birds like to make nests out of like do birds eat stuff that just they have around them to make, or do they instead just make the nests?
So I think what I heard the question was, do birds like to make nests out of the stuff that's around them? Is that the question? And how do they choose?
But like, let's say there's a brick open space that'd be good first. Would they use that, or would they rather make it?
That's a good question. It's every different kind of bird makes a different kind of nest, and they like different places to put them. And so some birds like be in a bush, and some birds like to be on a ledge, like on your ledge, on like the person who has the robin. And they make their nest out of lots of different things. Some birds make them out of sticks. Some birds like to find hair or other little pieces of plastic sometimes that they can find around. And some birds, actually even little tiny hummingbirds, sometimes even use spider webs to build.
On the table and we can't start talking.
I have a question.
Sure.
Are woodpeckers fast when they're on their feet a bit?
No, they aren't very fast on their feet. They actually, because they spend most of their time clinging onto the bark of a tree, when they're on the ground, they don't move very fast, but they can move fast as they go up and down the tree. They actually have a special kind of a foot compared to other birds that has a big, long back toe that helps them grab onto the tree.
It has
I have a question.
and it sticks in the tree.
Yeah.
And
Okay, hold on, Luke. Wait, yeah, we're gonna try to get to as many questions as we can, but we have a lot of people. So let me call on Lucia. You've been very patient. Go ahead.
my name's Lucia.
Sorry, Lucia. Go ahead.
Okay. A lot of people mix my name up because it's Spanish. I just wanted to tell you that I really love birding, and I started a life list, and I'm probably at 32 birds. And there's a family of Cooper's hawks or red-tailed hawks living right behind me.
That is so amazing. So I'd love to hear your story about the life list. So for everybody else, a life list is just a list of all the different types of birds you see in your life. So if you start a life list now, it's going to get really long as you see more and more birds. So so people who really like birds often have a life list, which is a very cool story. And it's really cool to hear that you have hawks nearby you. And that's a really good sign that there's some habitat near you, some trees that can, that the hawks can make a living nearby you. That's really good news.
So interesting.
Yeah, and I love birding with Catherine especially. We love going to Greenwood Cemetery and Prospect Park a lot. And we once ran into a red-tailed hawk's nest where we saw both of the hawks flying around, coming back and forth with food.
That's so exciting. Thanks for sharing that, Lucia. We're gonna give someone else a turn. That's really awesome. Okay, so next is my friend.
Can I say
something? Yes, we're gonna get to you. Lucas, go ahead.
So I actually have a bird book and I've been reading a lot. And a swan on his neck, it has 20,000 feathers.
Wow. That's so
And I
interesting.
see
And also a hummingbird, if you see it from the side angle, this hummingbird, its neck, it looks dark, like a black color. But if you see it from the front angle, it has a bright red.
So interesting.
Mhm.
Thank you for sharing
I
that.
see something.
Okay. Yeah, we're gonna try to get to everybody. There's over 100 people. So we're trying to give everyone a turn. Okay, my friend Nico.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, what's your favorite type of bird?
Ooh, that's a really good question. It's hard for me to say just one. But in this book, I think my favorite bird is the golden wing warbler. And part of the reason why I wrote this book about looking for a golden wing warbler is that when I heard the name golden wing warbler, just like Ruby, I just thought it was such a magical name and I really wanted to see the bird. And the reason why it's called a golden wing warbler is you can see it has that yellow on the wing. Golden yellow on the wing. They're really beautiful birds. But there are other birds that I love, and one of them that you should look up. If you haven't heard of it already, is called the common potu, P-O-T-O-O. And they can camouflage themselves so well. They look exactly like a stick or a branch during the day, but at night they open their eyes and they have big yellow eyes and they hunt at night. And they look really, really weird, and I really love them.
Cool.
I just wanted to say that once I saw an ash-throated flycatcher.
Wow.
That's wonderful. Okay. Thank you. So great question. And so interesting to hear about all the different kinds of birds.
Thanks for the read aloud.
Oh, of course. I'm so glad you liked it. Okay, my friend Asali, how do you say your name? Asil?
Alice?
Asel, go ahead.
How many kinds of birds live in New York City?
There are about 280 different kinds of birds that come through New York City every year. Not all of them stay the whole year, but about 280.
Amazing. Who would have thought? Good question. Thank you, Asel. Okay, Victoria, what is your question? Victoria.
Well,
I can hear now. Why this takes so long?
Victoria, go ahead.
Once I saw 2 starlings.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love starlings. Did you have a question too?
Are so beautiful. This is a starling. This one is a starling. And they have really beautiful feathers, even though just when you first look at them, they look black. But Victoria, you might have noticed they also have shiny sort of sparkly colors in the sunlight.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I told you
Thank
guys.
you, Victoria. Okay, my friend Ulysses, go ahead.
Can I tell you what birds I've seen?
Yes,
Sure.
go ahead.
So I've seen a blue heron, a gray heron, a white egret, a peregrine falcon, a sparrow, a duck, pigeon, of course, and a hawk. I don't know what kind it was, but I know it was definitely a hawk. And another hawk. It looked like a pigeon from far away, though.
Yeah, there's different sizes of hawks. There's the smallest hawk is probably just about the size of a pigeon. Is that right, Maya?
Yep, that's right.
And that's called, what's the smallest hawk called again, Maya?
Well, there are 2 different kinds of hawks that are quite small around here. One is called a merlin, and then they don't live around here, but there's something called a kestrel, which if you look up are very,
I
very
just saw an eagle.
Very nice.
I saw an eagle.
Where?
An eagle.
I just saw an eagle when I went to when I went with my friends, and then I saw an eagle up to the sky. It was like,
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing your list with us, Ulysses. Okay, Alice, you've been very patient. Go ahead.
I don't think you heard I've seen turkey vulture.
Alice, what did you have a question?
yeah.
Go ahead.
Why some, what was it? Why do some birds not go south in the winter? Because there's woodpeckers on our deck all winter.
That is
And
a
we're in Canada.
great question. That's right. Some birds stay in New York City all winter, including some woodpeckers, including something called a chickadee, including the house sparrow, including the cardinal that one of you mentioned. And that's because we don't, it's a bit of a mystery. We're not entirely sure why some birds would travel all the way to the equator and back every year. And some birds would stay put, but the birds that stay put are able to make a living all the way through the year in the winter. So they need to find food in the winter, and those are often seed-eating birds, or like the woodpeckers. The woodpeckers are finding sap and insects in the trees that they can find all winter.
That's a great question. Thank you, Alice.
But sometimes our woodpeckers run fast on our deck, but I only see them walk slow.
Okay, very good. Thanks for sharing.
I have a question.
Okay, so somebody who is, your name is not admin, but that's what it says on your computer.
Fatima,
Fatima, go ahead, please.
so what kind of birds can kill you?
Good question.
What is a bird that's very harmful and that can kill you?
I don't know of any birds that would kill you. And even though that sometimes there are things on the internet that suggest that really big hawks could pick up a small child, but that is not true. So there are no birds that would actually kill you. And there's not even very many birds that could hurt you. Maybe some people who are called falconers, who actually train birds of prey like eagles and hawks, maybe they could actually sometimes get a little bite or an injured arm from maybe the sharp talons of the bird they raise, but it's very rare to have any problems from birds.
Can I hurt you?
I have a question.
So Femi, yeah, the birds won't hurt you, but it's a very good question. Thank you. Okay, my friend Yuri, you've been very patient.
I have another question.
Oh, okay. Let's let somebody else have a question. You can always drop your question in the chat, and then if we have more time,
And how do you send the chat to other people?
I'm sorry, did you hear the question, Maya?
I think I heard you were wondering how to send a chat to other people.
The chat is disabled right now.
But you can ask your question just directly to me if you want. You don't need to put it in the chat.
Yeah, go ahead. Yuri, did you have a question?
I have a favorite bird.
You have a favorite bird? What is it?
Peacock.
The peacock. That's a beautiful bird.
I have a question.
Okay, thank you. Sophia,
Also seen a peacock.
did you have a question? Sophia? No, okay. Let's see, who else has a question? You
We
can,
have a question over here, if that's okay.
Nico Notes has a question.
Is that okay if we ask a question?
Of course.
yes, certainly. I only see a certain number of people on my screen, so please go ahead.
Okay, so this is Ava and Pauline. Go ahead, Ava, you go first.
How did you make the book?
And Pauline, what's your question?
What did you use for the illustration and cover?
Oh, thank you for those questions. So I did not make the illustrations. My friend Claudia Davila made the illustrations, and she's an artist. And I just love the way she drew Ruby and the birds in this book. The process of writing the book was that I wrote the words and then we sent them to Claudia and she drew the pictures, first just in pencil. And then we looked at them together and said, yeah, that's great. Or maybe there's something that we want to change. And then she started putting them into color. And the way she works is she works on a computer. After she draws the sketches on a piece of paper, she scans them and then she puts the color in digitally on the computer. And so that was really fun that I worked with Claudia, who lives in Canada, and I actually have never met her in person, but we made the book together by email and by Zoom calls. And I hope that helps answer your questions about the process.
Thank
I
you.
have a question.
Thank you.
Okay, is that terrific? Let's have 3 more questions, and then if you have more questions, you can have your teacher put them in an email, and we're going to get them answered that way. But let's do 3 more questions. Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead, my friend Fatumata. Go ahead.
When you were making a book, have you ever just felt like giving up? Like, have you ever felt like giving up?
That's a super great question. In fact, I'm writing another book right now. It's a graphic novel, and I'll just show you. It's not even published yet, but I felt like giving up this morning, and I'll tell you why. Here's just one page of, it's a graphic novel about superhero birds called Winged Heroes. And I felt like giving up because it's been more than 2 years of working on this book. And now we are sending it off to the publisher to be printed. And I'm still finding mistakes that I made. Like I spelled things wrong, or I didn't put a period in the right place. And I've reviewed it maybe 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 times, and I'm still finding mistakes. So that's why it's so important to have people working with you to help read and edit your work so that you can get it right. But this morning I felt a little bit discouraged, but there are still many.
I thought books were made in a machine.
I have a comment.
Okay, we're gonna have 2 more questions, and I know that you guys have a lot of questions, but that's what's great about this is that you can have your teacher or your mom just email us, and we're gonna get your questions answered. But for now, we're just gonna have 2 more questions.
I have a question.
All right, I'm sure. Yeah, there's a lot of questions.
I have a question.
All right, Ariyahi, go ahead. Ariyahi, what is your question?
It's a comment. I've seen a peacock, a hawk eating something up in a tree, and I've also seen a cardinal, a chickadee, lots of hummingbirds, and I only see 3 peacocks, but they were all like spread out.
Very nice. Yeah, those are beautiful birds. And did you have a question too? Okay, thank you.
I had a question.
Okay, Mason, are you there? Mason, do you have a question?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Mason.
So I just saw an eagle.
You did? That's fantastic.
With my friends, I saw an eagle. Like with my dad and all my and my older sister named Nyla. She saw an eagle. It was like it was too loud in my ear.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. Okay, last question.
I have a question.
Okay, my friend Alexander, you've been very patient. Go ahead, Alexander.
I want to tell you how much birds I saw.
Okay, please do.
So I found a pigeon, a duck, a house sparrow, and I think there's one more.
I found, oh, it was a robin. I found those. I found the robins at Central Park.
That's wonderful. It's so great that so many of you shared the birds that you've seen with us. That's so great. And the reason why it's also so great is because that's how scientists become
One
scientists.
time I seen
by making
a woodpecker
observations.
bird.
So that's really great that you guys are so observant and making those observations. So that's all the time we have for questions.
My favorite.
But I want to thank everybody for joining us and for your wonderful questions and being such courteous participants. And we're so glad that you could join us. And I want to thank my colleague Lana, who again made everything run so smoothly. Thank you, Lana.
Thanks.
And a big thank you to Mya Thompson for reading from her beautiful book. And it was very special for me to hear it right from the creator. And I think it was special for everybody too, and for inspiring so many of these, so many of our students in our audience. They obviously take your book really to heart. So thanks for writing it, and thanks for sharing it with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Maya.
Thank you, everybody. It was wonderful to see you and hear you and hear your questions. I know you have so many more questions, but that's great because I hope you have that many questions for your whole life. And if you keep asking questions about birds,
I saw a hawk twice at soccer class, and my favorite bird is the bald eagle.
Bye.
I saw a falcon when I was at the park.
Did you know my
Bye.